Hello everybody, I'm in the classroom here to make a demo about the organizational line. It's kind of a repeat of what I did in class, the second day of class. Some people were not there, and I hope that I can clarify all of the methods. And I realized also after the class, I think that I was pretty quick. I felt the kind of urgency to get you guys drawing, and that is kind of always the goal, but so hopefully this makes things more clear, and I'll post this on the UNM Learn. So we began talking about working from general to specific, quickly assessing everything that you want in your composition so you can place it on the page, get an idea of it on the page, and if it's not where you want it, you know you haven't spent an hour working on one object and then realize as the composition, as the rest of the drawing unfolds, it's not in the place you want it to be. So we talked a little bit about materials. There's these pencils, they give a fine line. It's kind of like the strength of those darker compressed charcoal chunks. Those are great. They really allow you to get a lot of contrast. This allows a little bit of a finer line. Both of them will leave a pretty strong ghost image when you erase. The willow is pretty soft. It's the softest of all of them. It erases the most easily, so if you are starting out with a gestural drawing, this can be really helpful. Sometimes I like to use this just because it leaves a ghost image, but this can be really helpful in that regard. And if you're using it, support it with the end, because it is pretty fragile. So my composition, what I'm thinking about is the pipe as the bottom left of the picture plane, the top of the bottle as the top, and the can and the little bottle on top of it as the right side. So that is a shape. That is an implied shape, all of those objects. So I want all of that in the composition, because that will make a really stable composition. We'll talk more about composition. It doesn't really serve to get bogged down on it. A lot of the composition you will approach intuitively. But as we go through, moving from general to specific, quickly try to assess all of the objects and say, this is approximately, so is that right? This actually seems a little bit tall, so then this actually comes to about there. Then we can say, well, that kind of falls off. So very quickly, I have a vague idea where are all the objects in the composition that I've chosen out of the still life setup, and I vaguely know where they are, and now I can begin to cite and measure and see, are they really where I think they are and how big they are. I didn't really get this boombox in there. It is. So, and then there's this line here going up. So now I can begin to measure, and we went over that, and from the camera view, I don't know exactly, but the basic idea is extending your arm all the way so that you have, when it's always extended full, you will have more of a consistent frame of measurement. And with your thumb, and you can use anything, you can use charcoal, you could also use an actual ruler, or any piece of wood. You could use a piece of paper You know, you could even say, you know, oh, okay, so this is the, you know, and I don't really do it this way, but this is possible, you know, and then move, you know, create systems, your own kind of unit of measurement, you know. So this was the purple vessel. That is now 1 unit of purple vessel, and you can use that to measure against other objects. So, but I work a little bit more fluidly than that, but if you're a technician, maybe that will do it for you. So now I'll start to measure kind of a little bit more and sight along these lines. So the homework investigation is about extended contours, as was the in-class drawing. And what that means is I have these general positions now. Let's see, I didn't actually get in this, the cloth, but there we go. So now we have basic positions. I'm going to go in and say, you know, where relative, so this is the top of the purple vessel now. Where does that reach when I sight along this contour line, right? Because I've created this line, which is really just a conceptual construction. This isn't real, but I'm using it to guide me as I look now, holding my pencil in the same position. Where does that intersect? And you know, here I have it intersecting on the little white bottle, but really when I sight, it intersects with the silver can. So that's actually totally wrong. And now I wonder, you know, I mean, that was pretty off, right? So what I had actually done, I think, was I moved this silver can too low. So instead it's back in space, so it appears above this bottom line. So maybe it's like there. Let's sight along that line, right? Goes to there. And actually that intersects at about the right spot in the nook of that little pipe that's inside. And I hadn't drawn that before, so I missed that piece. So it intersects in the nook. I know kind of basically what that shape is, so now that's the bottom. Now if I sight that across, let's see. So now I don't really have a frame of reference there because there's no objects here, so you know, I have nothing to measure against. So what I can do is I can drop this contour down from the can and say this contour, that contour. What is this segment of space? What's that unit of measurement right there? So if I go it's pretty small. It goes from about here to here. That's that unit. And I can measure now. Here to here. That's about right. So maybe this relationship right now, approximately, is correct. But who knows, you know, as the rest of it unfolds, we've just taken 2 points, and really we have to triangulate a lot of things in order to reach a real understanding of where they are. So I want to get a bit more accurate. Now I realize, you know, from this line here, this is the bottom of the silver can, and then there's a line from the gray milk crate that comes like that. Now I can measure approximately, because that, you know, that diagonal line is kind of hard to tell. In my mind, this diagonal is longer than this piece, you know, because I know the crate size. I have a feeling, an intuitive feeling, and past experiences with this milk crate, so I know this is longer than this, but visually right now, it's actually not. Let's see. It's actually shorter than it. So, now measuring here, I can see that I'm totally off. So what might need to happen is that this extends here, so I move that up a little bit, right? And now maybe this is more the proper position. So I can extend that up now and see, okay, that's where I had my initial thing. Say, well, okay, maybe this is where things are. Now this is the unit of measurement that I had for this purple vessel. So let's see. We measure that. Now that is where I'm getting to. I've made this now in proportion to this way too big. And so now I can ask myself, what needs to change? Either this needs to change, the purple vessel, or the milk crate needs to change. And if this is the right proportion for the silver can, then this and this are already right. So maybe I want to change the milk crate instead of this and this. So you start to kind of, get into this thing. So let me see. It's actually about the same, amazingly. The purple vessel and the silver can are about the same height. So, but not exactly perpendicular when you draw these extended contours. So there is this kind of slant, and this now, this connecting line here, which is diagonal, I can measure that now and get an approximate idea when I'm holding this perpendicular to this extended contour to the bottom of this thing, and then I can tilt this and see, that's, and this is very approximate. This is very felt. This kind of measurement isn't it's hard to be exact with this kind of thing. So it's really a guide. It's an aid to your perception. It's not the only way you are perceiving, because you're still feeling through all these things. So if I go like this and say, that's the angle, and then I say, yeah, it's about right. Actually, it's a little bit steep. It feels a little bit steep here, so I'm just going to go like that, and make it a little less steep. So now we've realized that this is huge in comparison to this, so maybe my initial assessment of this height was more accurate. Let me go and see one, but it's only one and a little bit. So, what is that? One and a little bit to there. So my initial assessment still off, but then I overcorrected to here. So now I'm going to go all the way up to here. To here is where I had it. And say, that's this top. Now I know I have this angle here. And from this angle, it's a little bit flatter, but it's still an angle. And I already have this corner here, so I can draw a contour, the line up there. Now we have that, and this here. Now this is close to my eye line, so this plane is becoming very, very slim. But we can say there's the plane. And the cylinder now is kind of approximately in the middle, and if we draw an X, we can get an approximate kind of thing and say, but I'm still not sure where exactly that is. If I drop this contour down, it's doesn't quite reach this purple vessel. It's just tangential. So, but this contour actually meets almost exactly this edge, so I can just go all the way up, and now I have this edge here. And now where is the top of this? How big is this container? I start using this purple vessel as a unit of measurement pretty consistently because I've found this in space in relation to this, and that these sizes kind of work, I begin to triangulate using these two things. And then incorporating, as you get more clearer and clearer idea of the other objects in your setup, you can say, well, this and this also is pretty right, and this is pretty right. So now, so this process is being kind of expanded a little bit as I change it, and we are still working through this pretty quickly, but we have to be careful that, now because these are found, they become really attractive as things. There's more security in them, they're more solid, you can feel them more, and there can be a desire to really make it perfect, like that angle, and how does this little thing in there really sit in there? It wasn't quite right. But we have to remember that this is just one aspect of the whole composition, and remembering how off I was on both this and this, and the only reason we wouldn't say I was super off on the purple vessel is that I'm using it, kind of starting with it, so the other things are growing and changing in relationship to that thing more, right? So now so just to be clear, right, like we're still working from general to specific. So when I say, there's maybe the kind of desire or tendency to kind of focus in on things and make them right, we have to keep moving. We have to keep moving through to the other things, because maybe when I reach to this edge of the composition, I realize, it really doesn't work. Like it really throws off this whole composition, this whole shape, like maybe the composition falls off the ground, maybe everything fuses to the left, maybe there's not enough space around the top, and then it doesn't feel right. So if I keep on moving, I would extend this contour of the crate. We're trying to find this pipe thing. I need that kind of edge. Where does that meet? That edge actually kind of meets these wooden things that are attached to this crate. So that's kind of like that. This is just kind of visible, and we know where that's attached to this crate because here, not like that. So, things are starting to get a little bit muddled, right? What is anything here? This is all just lines. So you can start to, whenever there's some confusion, make it clear for yourself where things are, and you're building all this through line and through erasing line. So there isn't, you're not shading anything in. You're building up this atmosphere through these different lines. So I just want to be clear where things are, so I kind of give myself an idea and then erase what I need to erase so that I know where things actually are. And that's sometimes why I like the charcoal pencil, is that this, you can see like it moves around very easily. And this can be great for first stages, or if your particular sensibility is you like a little bit more of an atmospheric drawing, then it's perfect. Or something softer, something that will kind of, kind of have gentler lines and kind of move like that. So that's all, also up for exploration for you. What materials really suit you, I tend to really like strong contrasts, and so the compressed charcoal or this charcoal suits me really well. But maybe if I'm feeling it in a particularly light mood or gentle mood, maybe I'll choose this because it really expresses what I'm feeling in a better way. So moving across, kind of approximately there on the purple thing is where the top of that pipe over here is. So I move over there, and it's a weird object. Doesn't really lie flat. There's kind of this So now I have that. The boombox, which I've placed here, isn't there at all. The top of the purple thing actually goes right under the boombox, so now I find the boombox is there. And we see this top. It's a very odd view of the boombox from here because it's kind of directly on. So this is all the length of it. It's a very long thing, but then it's foreshortened in a funny way. So something like that. That extends up to this kind of beige frame thing, and then I never really got far on this thing. I think the water is somewhere in the middle, which is kind of close to the top of the beige thing, but not quite. So we keep moving through pretty quickly. You know, as soon as you start really sighting and measuring, the process kind of slows down. And interesting things happen, you know, like now, for instance, from my view, this wooden thing that's attached to the crate is actually covering this end of the beige thing. But I thought that I had just found the correct position of the boombox, which gave me the approximate position of this beige frame. So where does that leave me? You know, now I have to really figure out what needs to shift. I mean, a lot of things need to shift. So, you know, I can cite against other things and really confirm, you know, like, yes, this contour meets that. So, okay, so, you know, where's the discrepancy? What I'm finding actually is that the boombox is tilted like this in space, and I've drawn it more like this. So I think what needs to happen is I just really go in with the eraser here and say this area's not doing it, right? And maybe that also has to do with this pipe thing, you know. So I'm going to start from a different position. I'm going to say, you know, I couldn't really find this through these relationships, so I'm going to go in from the top of this crate and say, you know, now I saw that this was right there, so instead I'm going to go like that and say, you know, and now I can measure too and say, you know, the frame is actually the same width in my view as the bottle, approximately, as the bottle on top of the water. And I had it being quite a bit larger, you know. It actually just goes like that far. So I hadn't seen that in my mind. I was still thinking of it as I had set up the beige thing, and I know that it's kind of wide. It's significantly wider than this. So, you know, instead of drawing what I saw, I drew what I imagined from my mind. You know, that the past is always coming through into your perception, and kind of interjecting with its own pressures. So you have to resist that and constantly really check, you know, where are things, and that's why this process can really help you get to where things really are, because you're really investigating what is this location. So that's a better position of that. So what that does also, but interestingly, the top of this goes down to the corner of this, okay? That's one thing. Not quite even. Now that we have that approximate position, maybe finding the boombox will be easier because we already have, you know, we've realized the spatial relationships in a different way. It also moves, so the handle is about there. We move kind of a little bit down on it. That's kind of the top of it. We're kind of starting to locate it in space. The top, now I have not even describe at all this thing in the center, and I don't know why, maybe because it's inside this larger shape, so I was able to omit it because there's still a lot of spatial relationships. But now I really need a point of reference for this middle, and there's this vase inside this milk crate, which can help me because the top of the vase is in the center of the middle of the top of the boombox. So now I just need to find where the vase is. It's a little bit off the center of this water bottle. It's a little bit in front of that is the kind of center of it. The top of it aligns. Oh, and I didn't even put this little bottle in. So there's so many things that happen. There's a lot to describe. And I was really impressed. Some of you, it's interesting to see. Some of you chose the whole setup, which is great. You can be really sure what the shape is, and the shape already helps you because it's already a triangle. It's a very stable composition. Some of you went really close in, and it's great to see that variety of impulses. And yeah, it's amazing. There's a lot to describe. So, I keep missing things. I haven't even really gone over to this other thing here, so maybe I need to just come in really quickly and kind of vaguely describe all the rest of the things in the composition. So there's even the phone is over here. There's this other vessel, this piece of wood that comes down, this thing, And if certain objects on the edges, they don't really serve your composition because you really want to focus here. There's a lot of different ways that you can shift the focus, right? You can draw it a bit more lightly, like I've acknowledged it, but now the space on the edge, it falls away. So this really comes forward and provides this kind of shape. So where was I with this thing? And I don't really know how long I've been drawing for. Let me check. Okay, 26 minutes. Yeah, okay, well, I'm enjoying it. I'm going to draw a little bit longer. But you get the idea. I don't know how much more I need to draw as far as the demo really goes. I guess the one thing I will show in a second is I'll just do a full erasure, which is it's not necessary. It's a one type of process. So drawing in this way, you're moving from general, then you become more and more specific, right? You find the objects in relationship to one another with a greater and greater degree of accuracy, and the drawing starts to evolve in that way, and you can do things like this where like there's a certain section that isn't working. You've realized that didn't quite work. You can erase the whole thing. That also really depends upon your sensibility. Using the eraser is important. It's like the two sides of the whatever same coin, or yin and yang, however you want to talk about it. There's a balance between an additive mark and a reductive mark, and within that interplay, there's a whole story that isn't possible if you're only using additive marks. What you can do now, because this is, what is this? Is a bunch of lines that are kind of, it's hard to decipher what's going on. Maybe I want to kind of erase back a little bit, which pushes things back, and I have a basic idea of where things are. I'm not creating any value for the sake of value. All of the value that's on here is the ghosted image of kind of objects that have been found through this kind of search. And now maybe I'll come in with something that will be a little bit more precise. So the willow charcoal is still, you can get a fine line, you can get a thicker line as well. This, you can get kind of a finer, stronger line. You know, there's a different quality. You can see how it's harder, so it's picked up the texture a little bit more of that. And it doesn't kind of, you know, smear as easily and remove as easily. Still smears, obviously, it's still charcoal. And the compressed as well, you know, it will get everywhere, but it's really strong. So, yeah, now maybe I'm going to come in and kind of reassert these lines, you know, with a little bit more kind of finality. I know where this is. I've measured this. This is something that I feel, you know, yeah, I've found these lines. I know where they are. I'm still kind of extending the contours a little bit to, you know, allow a bit more air into the composition. I know I didn't finish this this vase. That was going to help me find that, but for the purposes of this, it is what it is. So now we're, you know, you can get a bit more of a sense of clarity through the drawing. You've found where things are. You can reassert the lines, and this does not by any means this is not a final move by any means. You know, you can reassess, kind of continue this as much as you want, really. I think that the search is always incomplete. So yeah, maybe it starts to take shape more. Still a bit vague, but hey, you know, you got a bit more of an idea where things are, what they're doing. You know, maybe you add a bit more detail. These lines can maybe come in there. You know. Right, so slowly it builds up, and there's a lot of marks that are there really for conceptual reasons. You know, I'm finding this line, so I'm saying that this line is here, but that line is not really there. You know. But you know, you create it, so then it is.